Hi everyone, welcome to today's grammar lesson. Today is a grammar lesson that is an overview of the progressive tense, which is also known as the continuous tense. So in this lesson, we are going to talk about what the tense is, why we use it, and some common structures related to this tense. So what are the progressive tenses? The progressive tense is also known as the continuous tense. It is used to describe a continuous, in progress, or ongoing action. More about the progressive tense. There are many different forms of progressive tense in English. This lesson will focus on three forms of the progressive, which is known as present progressive, past progressive, and future progressive. Now, if you've ever taken English lessons before, you may have also heard your teacher use the tenses, the name continuous. So they would say the present continuous, the past continuous, and the future continuous. Whether you use progressive or continuous, it doesn't matter. It means the exact same thing. For this reason, I'm just going to call everything the progressive because that's my preference. You can use whatever preference you want. There's not one that is more correct than the other. It's just a personal preference. And I don't know why we have two names because English, in my opinion, is confusing enough. It's not necessary to have two names, but we do have two names for this tense anyways. So here is the most common structure that we use for the progressive or continuous tense. So we've looked at other structures before. We'll look at this. We have the subject, the form of be, the verb. So this is the main verb, ing goes on the end of this verb, and then the object of the sentence. So the auxiliary verb and the main verb together are both essential elements of the structure of the progressive or continuous tense. The auxiliary verb here is quite important because it, like any other auxiliary verb, supports the main verb. And that means it provides information. And in this case, it provides information about the tense. It tells us when the tense happened. So in this example, in the future, it would be will be. In the present, it will be is or am. In the past, it would be was or were. So this changes all of the time and tells us exactly when the tense is. So over here, we have will be. That tells us that this action is happening in the future because that is the appropriate structure for that. The main verb, no matter what, always has ing. And then the object is the same as the simple tenses. It's just the thing that the action is being done to. So if we break everything down, we see I am speaking Spanish. So we have our auxiliary verb and then we have our main verb speak with ing on the end, speaking. Then we have he is drinking coffee. We have our auxiliary verb is, that's our form of be that's changed to the present singular form. And drinking is our main verb with ing. The ing is the main thing that shows us that the action is ongoing. So ing is a clue that the action is continuous or ongoing. So that's why we're always using the ing. We have we will be watching movies. So now it's the future. Will be is for the future. And then we have our main verb in ing. And she will be playing the guitar. Will be is in the future here as well. And now for playing, we have the main verb play and ing at the end. So ing is always used for the progressive tense. However, if you're not including the auxiliary verb to support it, it's going to be wrong for two reasons. First of all, that's not the structure. So your structure will be wrong if you're not including the auxiliary verb. The second thing is the person who is listening to you or reading your writing when you're using this tense is not going to know when these actions were happening. They'll know it was a continuous action if you put ing, but not whether it happened in the past, present, or future, which is what our auxiliary verb is used for. So I'm just going to explain the structure a little bit more in terms of the form of be. So in the progressive tense, the form of be, like I said before, tells us a lot about when the continuous or main action is happening. The form of be can take on any of these forms. So for present, we have am, is, or are. So for example, we can have I am, let's make this bigger. I am writing an essay. Or she is writing an essay. Or they are writing an essay. So this is all signal that this is happening in the present. And we just have these different forms, and the forms rely on our subject, just like in the simple present tense. Just like in the simple present tense, we have was and were as well for past. Was is for singular and were is for plural. And we put this right before our main verb. So I was writing an essay. They were writing an essay. Future, again, is one of the most simple ones because no matter if it's singular or plural or whatever, never changes. But the thing that you must remember is to include will and be. So a lot of times I see this. I will writing an essay. This is one of the most common things I've seen as an English teacher throughout the years. And this is wrong. Why? Because you're forgetting the word be. So the structure is wrong. So you want to say, I will be writing an essay. And now you have the be in there, which means your structure is completely correct. And you're good to go. So with all that said, it's just a little note over here, something I've already said. Just like in the simple tense, the use of be depends on whether the subject is singular or plural. So just to repeat, is for a singular subject, was is for singular, are, were is plural, and my personal thing is for future. It's the easiest to remember because it doesn't change. It's not influenced by the subject like the other tenses are. So this just breaks it down a little bit more for you and gives you some examples. So in the present, like I said, we have am, is, and are. So here are some examples. I am studying English. He is eating rice. They are playing soccer. For the past, we have was and were. I was studying English. He was eating rice. They were playing soccer. And then for the future, we always have will be. So here we don't see any changes throughout the form of be. I will be studying English. He will be eating rice. They will be playing soccer. So no matter what, will be stays the same, but all of these other ones change for plural versus singular. So here's another structure that we use. This one's a little bit tricky. The progressive tense can follow this structure. It's subject plus the auxiliary verb plus being plus the adjective. When we use an adjective at the end, then we have to use the word being always. And even though you're using being with ing, that doesn't mean that you have to forget to use this form of be because this is still our auxiliary and now this is our main verb. So even though it might sound weird to say be being, it's actually fully correct. And it doesn't sound that weird because remember, be takes different forms. So be will take the form of is, am, are, was, were, will be, things like that. So usually it sounds okay. For will be being, it sounds a little bit funny, but it's still grammatically correct. Let's look at some examples. I am being generous. He will be being silly. We are being difficult. She is being polite. They are being playful. So for all of these, we have subject plus whatever the form of be is. So here we have will be, we have am, is, are. Whatever the form of be is, that's correct. But no matter what, we always have being, the main verb right after, always with the ing to show as continuous. And then we have an adjective. Now, the adjective is very difficult. Using an adjective in this tense is difficult because we can only use temporary states in this tense. Permanent states will not work. So permanent states, adjectives used to describe permanent states, are used for simple tenses. So for example, being polite is only when you say please or thank you. It's temporary. You're not polite 100% of the time or most of the time. When you're by yourself, for example, you're commonly not polite, or you're not always trying to be silly or difficult. These are just temporary things that are for a short time. And it's not permanent. Now, when you're happy, it's talking about you as a person generally all the time. Or when you're sad, you're being talked about as a general adjective, which means that you're sad often, all the time. And that's why we use that in the simple tenses, because simple tenses are all about permanent states, repeated actions, facts, and things like that. But in this case, if you are being polite, it's not a permanent state that you are always in because you change it after a short time. You're only polite when you're with certain people or in certain situations, for example. However, so that's why down here, if we say she is being happy, it's not correct because this would be a permanent state. But polite, difficult, silly, generous, and playful, these are seen as temporary states. So that is why it's tricky. You have to double check the adjective that you're using if you're going to use this form and make sure that your adjective is for a temporary state, not a permanent state. Here's another structure that we commonly use. The progressive tense can follow the structure subject plus be plus the verb ing plus to be plus a noun. So this can be even more tricky because now you have be and be again, just like in the last structure that we looked at. So our auxiliary verb, exact same thing. You're going to use am, is, are, was, were, will be, any of these. And it's always going to take the form that depends on the subject and depends on the tense that you're trying to talk in. And so it doesn't sound as strange. Now we have verb ing. So it's going to be similar to before, not the exact same, and I'll tell you why in a second. And after that, you have to be, and we always keep it to be. This one we never ever change. Never change in this structure. You're always going to keep it to be in the infinitive form. Plus a noun, and this noun is most commonly used to describe a profession or job. So not even a type of person, but a profession or job. Um, so to to break this down, we're going to look at a few examples. We have, I am studying to be a teacher. I am studying to be a teacher. So this is a profession and job, and I am studying. This is a tense and a structure that's used to tell us that it is a long and continuous process to become a teacher. So that's what we are saying here. And so over here, I have a note that says you have to ensure the main verb makes sense based on the context. So studying to be a teacher, that makes sense because you have to go to university and study if you want to be a teacher. However, if you said, for example, I am eating to be a teacher, well, even though all aspects of your structure are the exact same as I have up here, well, It's actually not the best because this verb doesn't make sense based on the context. So, what is the relationship between eating and being a teacher? How does that make sense? It does not. So then you can't say this. That's wrong. He will be trying to be an actor. So now we've changed the tense a little bit, but we still have trying. Then we have to be, then our noun, an actor. And many people want to be an actor, but they don't succeed. And it's an ongoing process of going to auditions, trying to get roles on TV or movies or become famous through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or something to become an actor. So it's always a long process of trying something and then failing. So you're always trying new things, which is why this verb is the best. And we were training to be astronauts. Now, training is the best verb here because you have to go to school and study, but you also have to do a lot of physical training, exercise, and testing to make sure that your body is able to become an astronaut. So that's why all of these verbs are okay to use because the context makes sense for all these. And then my structure stays the exact same as here. Right after I have the form of verb and then the ing, I'm putting to be, to be, to be. And then right after comes the noun. You cannot change this order. So you cannot change this order at all. So just to summarize the overview of the progressives, this tense is also called the continuous tense, and it's used to talk about actions that are ongoing, continuous, or in progress. The structures we have subject, and then the form of be, then the verb plus ing, then the object. Then we have the subject again, the form of be plus being plus an adjective. Lastly, we have the subject, form of be, plus the verb ing, plus to be, plus a noun. So these are the three most common structures. There may be other structures that are less common, but these are the ones that if you're going to start to use this tense, you're going to use this one the most and start to move on and expand through these two, probably. So now we're going to do a little test to see how much you can remember. Fill in the blanks with the correct verb form. So this is the first one. I something pasta for dinner last night. And we're going to put this into the past progressive. So first of all, we need a form of be that is good for I, but also good for the past. And then we have to change cook to have ing. Let's see what the answer is. I was cooking pasta for dinner last night. So was is for singular, which that's good for I. And then ing is on the ing on the main verb cook. And was is good for showing the past. So altogether, past progressive. It's good. Let's look at this one. In university next year, she something to be a nurse. So because we say next year and because the instructions down here say it, we're going to make sure that we're putting it in future progressive. So you're going to try to find a form of be that is good for she in the future progressive. Think about it. Don't forget to put ing on the verb study. Let's see. She will be studying to be a nurse next year. So we have she, so we're going to have will be, but because it's future anyways, this she doesn't really impact it very much. But will be shows us that we're going to be talking about the future, and then we put ing on the word study to show it's going to be progressive. Here's the last one. It something a lot today. So now we're going to put the sentence in present progressive. We have to find the form of be that is good for it. Then we have to find or change the verb here to be in progressive form, which means we're going to add ing. Let's see, what is it? It is raining a lot today. So is good for the third person singular. It is singular. So that's the best form of be. Then we have the verb rain plus ing to make it progressive, raining. So that's present progressive. Thank you so much for watching. That is it for our overview on the progressive tense. Please keep studying your English, do the best you can, and try your best. And I will see you next time. Bye.